The world of Pokemon is huge, and with that comes a lot of unexplained and unsolved mysteries, and the Pokemon anime has quite a lot. Either things that were completely forgotten about or things that were just left to our imaginations. But let's see if we can try to figure out some of Pokemon's greatest mysteries. So to start, let's get the giant gold and silver elephant out of the way, the GS Ball, the most talked about storyline in Pokemon. The one that was set up for years and years, many episodes only to be completely dropped and forgotten about. I think at this point we all kind of know what they were trying to set up. Most of the rumours are they were setting up a Johto movie and having Celebi emerge from within this GS Ball, which also tie into some of the events that happen in the games. Obviously, the GS Ball was shown as early on as the end of the Indigo League. It set up the whole Orange Islands arc and was a small teaser to Gold and Silver, the next main-line Pokemon games. But it let Ash travel to the Orange Islands, so this Pokemon basically set up a whole arc before Johto, which is why the fans will never forget about it. After Ivy couldn't figure out the mysterious ball, Ash was tasked to deliver it to Kurt in Johto, the dude who makes Pokeballs. Who's better? And it's not like this ball was forgotten in early Johto. We had frequent reminders that Ash still had it, even a whole episode where a Quagsire steals it. But of course, in the end, it is left with Kurt and literally never heard of or spoken about again, vanished into dust. Some say Kurt sold it and ran off with the millions, some say the writers just forgot, but who knows. I think the realistic theory is that they just decided to go a different route with the fourth Pokemon movie, which obviously focused on Celebi, so they scrapped whatever plans they had for the infamous GS Ball, and it was never to be seen again. It would have been so cool if one of the random things Journeys did was a brief mention of the GS Ball, or some sort of resolution, but it remains something that was never solved. And something else that was never solved is when the hell is Ash's dad getting back with them super potions? We all know Ash's dad is such a heavily debated topic and a mystery right up there with the GS Ball. I don't think it's as important because the GS Ball literally was in our faces for like 50 episodes, whereas Ash's dad has only really been mentioned briefly at the start of the series, and then in other non-canon different timeline events. So Ash's dad really isn't a big deal. I think most people would just like to know who it is. It's only natural when you've had a character like Ash for so long, but the evidence is literally zero. We have no evidence of this guy's identity. Some have argued it could be Silver from Pokemon Chronicles, having a similar love of Pokemon to Ash, and reminding everyone of him when he had that one conversation with Richie. Others have pointed out how suspicious it is that Professor Oak is constantly hanging around Delia, so who knows what they could be getting up to. But the truth is, Ash has no father. He found his real father in Kukui during his time in Alola. No one has ever come close to that. His real father has been forgotten with time. He isn't a real person anymore. The writers don't want him to exist, and he never will. I think the highest chance we ever got this information was coming during the start of the series, when there seemed to be some sort of plan to mention him or bring him in. But as time went on, Ash's father was left in the writer's room. Similar to the GS Ball, people often wonder what are in certain Pokeballs. We've had quite a few times where a mystery Pokeball has appeared and set up future reveals. Very recently in Pokemon Horizons we had Alt reveal that he was keeping a Dragonite in his Dusk Ball, which was a pretty pleasant surprise to everyone. And then even before that we had Diana with a new mystery Pokemon that ended up being Petulant. It's always fun to have these reveals, but at the same time some of them can be frustrating when we never find out, especially so in Tobias's case, where we all know he had a full team of 6. He had to in order to compete, but we only ever saw him use 2 Pokemon, and in fact he only used Darkrai in all 8 gyms and every league battle other than the battle with Ash. The dude was insane, and despite his shenanigans it was a insane reveal when we finally did see Latios. But everyone wonders, what else is this man hiding? Does he have 4 more legends waiting? I mean, I doubt it. He could maybe have another legendary, but I think the answer is pretty simple in the fact that he just spams his strongest Pokemon, and his Darkrai is the equivalent of a 7-year-old me rocking up to the Pokemon League with my level 80 Charizard. So the rest of his team could have just been fodder or Pokemon he doesn't really use, but who knows, it would have been really cool if someday we got the answer from the writers about this, but I suspect they don't know either. Another mystery Pokemon was Kukui's 6th and final Pokemon. He was about to bring out his own Pokemon before Tapu Koko stepped in, and thank God that was the case because we got a peak final battle. But it begs the question, what was Kukui's 6th Pokemon? There's not much evidence as his anime team is quite different from his games team, other than Braviary and Incineroar, so who knows. An Alolan Ninetales would have been cool, but in the end it doesn't really matter as we got something way better. In the case of mysteries that I'm actually glad we never found out about, we have Professor Ivy and Brock's weird relationship. Brock arrives back from being replaced by Tracy because the fans all missed him and hate Tracy, even though Tracy is my boy, so show him some respect. But Brock is all depressed. Anytime someone brings up Professor Ivy, he has the same reaction.
Don't mention that name!
Sitting in the corner with a look of pure depression and emptiness. What happened between these two? And it's such a hilarious joke. The only downside is that it didn't really carry on into Johto or future series. It really was only in a few episodes. But this was such a great gag, I think we can assume Brock poured his heart out to Ivy, tried to make that final jump, and he was shot down and rejected just like usual, which made him leave and come back a broken man. The answer to this mystery is pretty simple. What happened to Brock and Ivy? Well, Brock happened. There's plenty of other mysteries throughout the 1200 or so episodes of Pokemon. You have cases of real world animals appearing like fish, and you just have a lot of other wacky Pokemon appearing. There was a random Dragonite that appeared very early on at Bill's lighthouse, and this thing was literally gigantic. It was bigger than any Pokemon we've even seen now. Why was this random Dragonite so big back in episode 13 of Pokemon? I don't know, but it was pretty cool. Maybe there was a random Dynamax spot popping off in Kanto at that time. But things like this don't really need to be answered. I think it all just adds to the mystique and the vastness of the Pokemon world. Bill even states in this episode, despite only 151 Pokemon being discovered at that time, that he knows that there's probably countless amounts of Pokemon out there that they don't know about yet. Which, yes, you were right, Bill, we now have over 1,000 Pokemon. Bill predicted Goldengo confirmed. It was always great seeing the addition of new elements to the anime that extended upon and made the world feel bigger. One thing they used to do in the anime, which I always found hilarious, was the extra gyms. They had the likes of Gary, Barry, Sawyer, and I'm sure other of Ash's rivals, often showing off their gym badges, and there would be completely random badges in there, like gyms that no one has even heard of, which confirms in the anime they have more than the 8 standard gyms. We see the iconic frame of Gary having 10 damn badges just to flex on us. 8 wasn't enough. And at the time he didn't have the Viridian gym badge, so that confirms 11 gyms are in Kanto. So that's kind of a mystery within itself. What are these other gyms and why have we never seen them? I think it was just a cool way to differentiate Ash's journey from his rivals and confirm that they were going down a different path. But the biggest mystery is why you aren't subscribed yet, so please hit that sub button if you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your favourite mysteries down below. Which ones do you wish were actually solved?